thought about where laughter comes from? Anybody know where laughter comes from? I've thought about it, meditated on it, tried to figure it out. And the closest I've come to it was that I don't even know how to put it. If I give you two non-related pieces of information and try to make an absurd connection between them, your mind can't deal with it. You know? So it kind of goes, you know, the analogy would be, remember the old black and white television set? And the horizontal control, vertical control will go wacky and start going like this, and you walk over and go wham it on the side, see, and it would straighten right up. See, when it went like that, it was laughing. It was getting contradictory information in there, see. Okay, that's as close as I can get to it, is that it's contradictory information that your mind can't deal with, and so it just goes nuts for a minute. All right, television. I should refer to my notes. Okay, so you hear this dumb bar joke, this dumb, stupid story, one that you wouldn't want to tell because you're liable to get killed. And you wouldn't want to anyway if you're a decent human being. You take out that nugget of comic value and you start playing with it. The way that we play with that, the nugget of comic value, is called conversational sabotage. It's when you try out things that you think are funny socially. And I think we all know people who do that. I do that, you know. People, when I start doing lines on people socially, like at a party, and they say, oh, he's doing it again. My wife said, well, he's just getting ready to leave town. And that's it. Because I'm trying out these lines to see how they work. Max Sennett, who was a great silent film producer, before that he was a vaudeville comedian. Max Sennett developed what's called the Sennett formula. Max Sennett formula was that laughs were divided into four kinds of laughs: a chuckle, a belly laugh, a guffaw, and a boffo. Right? And so you got it. Well, okay, a chuckle goes through an audience. It's you just chuckle, as a matter of fact. A belly laugh is slow. It rumbles up. Everybody doesn't get it at the same time. See, so you got to wait for that thing to peak. And then you've got the guffaw, which is so patently absurd that everybody goes, ah! And then it goes like that, you know, dives right off. And then, as soon as that falls off, you do the boffo, and that's the laugh that kills. Okay? That's the laugh that kills. How do you decide if a line, if a gag is a chuckle or a boffo, you know, belly laugh, or a guffaw or a boffo? You try them on the people around you. You try them over the counter. You try them on waitresses. You try them among your friends, you see? And that way you can arrange them in an order where one leads to the other, so that you build the laugh to the boffo, and then all the energy goes out of who it is you're telling stories to. All the energy goes out of it, but leaves you free to rebuild the energy. The Sennett formula was used by Fred Allen, was used by Jack Benny, was used by Bob Hope. All of them used that way of putting stories together, you know, building one on top of the other. And of course, Alfred Hitchcock had the same idea when he made horror movies. Like when he made, in the old days, made The Mummy's Curse and The Mummy's Ghost, was that you can't build tension unremittingly. It wears people out. It wears the audience out. So you have to relieve the tension. And so he would have, you know, the tension build and build going through the haunted house, and the ghost is going to jump out, and he would have Rochester open a closet, and there would be a skeleton that would jangle, and he would dance around, and everybody would laugh. It would take the tension right out of it, and then he was free to rebuild it again. Understand what I mean? Tactics, storytelling. The Western style of storytelling, by the way, oh, you've been victimized by this kind of conversational sabotage, is where you are in a conversation at a party, and gradually your contribution to the conversation is to move it around to whatever particular absurdity you want to insert into it. But you move it around subtly so nobody really realizes it. And then you start to take people on this trip, you know? And eventually, they might begin to fall off. Oh, he's doing it again. Oh, is this another one of your stories? The idea, the mantra is to try to go as far as you can without being caught. That's the Western style of storytelling. I do that in Boston. And I get all the way to the end, and they're still sitting there. It's amazing. I mean, they're taking notes sometimes. It's just amazing to me that they do that. Okay. So build the tension, relieve the tension. Now, that conversational satire, that way of telling a story socially, of pulling people into the story after you've figured out how your lines work, is no setups. No setups. How do you know when somebody's going to tell you a joke? They say, have you heard? Huh? Never start a story with, did you hear this one? Or have you heard that one? Never, never. Evil, bad. Not bad. I'm Jewish, that's why I do that instead of that. So, you never start a story like that. Also, you talk in your normal language. Now, this is an interesting thing, and I'm sure you've all done this. But if you're going to tell stories, I've been doing this kind of sabotage, you sneak up on people, you got to really understand this. If I'm telling a story about a magician, well, the cab pulls up to the curb, the magician gets out and walks down to the drugstore. What did I just do? I would never talk normally that way. I would say the cab pulled up to the curb, the magician got out and walked down to the drugstore. Do you see what I mean? I would have spoken in the past tense. People who tell jokes shift tenses. So he comes up to me and he says, you would never talk that way normally. So don't shift your tenses, because it's a dead giveaway that you're now in joke mode. This is like an intelligence report. Guys, you're going to have fun with this. Get in my notes. So don't shift tenses, and don't do, have you heard this one? That's called no openers. Now, I learned this from Myron Cohen, and this has to deal strictly with your dumb bar jokes. Like I say, that very often are sexist and are racist, that are just unpleasant, but have that essence of comic value. My father took me down to Las Vegas to the big hotel there. It was the Flamingo, before there was a strip in Las Vegas. And he had one of the first post-World War Buick Rivieras, and you could drive at 100 miles an hour through southern Utah because there weren't any speed limits. What a thrill. He'd take me down there. I was too young to go into the bar, but he'd take me down there just because Myron Cohen was playing there. And he knew I was going to be a storyteller. He wanted me to have a chance to listen to Myron Cohen. I only had a couple of chances to go backstage to talk to him. I asked a number of questions, but the one where the answer changed my life said, how do you pick stories? How do you decide on what stories to tell? He said, when I walk out of here into the bar, because I've been standing here telling stories, everybody's going to come at me with their favorite story. And they're going to be dumb bar jokes. And there'll be jokes about racialism is the word he used, and jokes about women, wife jokes he called them. He said, I don't want to tell stories that have victims. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm here to help people to laugh. So I won't tell a story that has a victim. I'll listen to that story, and sure, it might be funny, but I'll take the funny part out, and I'll get rid of the victim, and I'll take that funny part and put it together in a whole different story so that there aren't any victims. It's not just a matter of learning to tell victimless stories, to recognize them, and to decide not to tell them. But I honestly think that in these, the waning days of Babylon, it's very, very important socially when somebody starts to do that. And it may be somebody you're very close to, it may be your best buddy. When they start getting into that story, into those kinds of stories that have victims, just to stop and say, I'm sorry, I don't listen to those stories anymore. That's a hard thing to do, isn't it? It'd be a hard thing to do, but I think it's about time that we